Sure. Depends what you're going to do to her.
Well, thank you for having us here today. My name is Brian, and with me presenting is Brian. We are Prestige Worldwide together, and we're going to be talking to you about how you can improve the quality of your speeches so that you can further improve the diversification within your organization. So the first thing I want to talk to you today about is linguistic style. And so basically what that is that, you know, the types of words that you use, how you use those words, the tonality of the different words that you use, and the body language that accompanies all of the communication of how you present that to somebody. So I really like to think about stand-up comedians as some of the best people that, you know, have different variances of linguistic style, because these guys are able to go to tons of different countries and perform in front of massive audiences and entertain these groups of people for hours. And they're able to do this because they're able to, you know, time the words that they use to be compelling to the audience. They're able to use body language that draws the audience in to get their attention. And they're able to make these stories that they tell sound very personal. And so their act doesn't sound, you know, like it's been rehearsed hundreds or thousands of times over, but it sounds very personal to what they're doing just that night and each night going forward. So with your speeches, if you're able to personalize them to the audience that you have in front of you, then you're going to be able to form a connection with them, and that's going to help motivate women to join your organization, which kind of leads me to my next point. You have to know the audience that you're performing to and giving speeches to. So say, for example, you maybe one day you're performing or giving a speech in front of a group of 18-year-old girls from the suburbs of Florida, and then the next day you're giving a speech in front of, you know, middle-aged immigrant women from all over the world. So obviously these two groups have very different cultural and ethnic backgrounds, and so you're going to need to know that beforehand so that you're able to use different types of language, different stories and body language to connect you with your audience so that you can have a connection with them. It's also very important to be confident with what you're saying, because if you're confident, then your audience will pick up on that and they will be able to trust you that you know what you do.
One of the things we need to avoid as people who give speeches for a living, people who present to boardrooms, is inauthentic speech. And we've all seen this. This is the person that's memorized their speech, memorized their body movements, and the problem with that is it's unnatural and it comes across as inauthentic, and it's very distracting and it detracts from your message. So this is one thing to avoid, and how you do that: have authentic speech. And the first way to have authentic speech is be open with your audience. And the way I've envisioned this is you don't want to be over-rehearsed, but you don't want to be under-rehearsed. Because if you're under-rehearsed, then you come across as lazy and sloppy. But if you're open with your audience, you've rehearsed this, and while you're rehearsing, make sure to be open, connect, passionate, and listen. And one way I've found to do this is imagine you're talking to your best friend. And when you're talking to your best friend one-on-one, that's the most authentic speech there is. And so if you practice it like that, and if you practice and you envision it, then you're going to come across as open and vulnerable even when you're up giving a speech. And the other way is to connect. I mean, when you're talking to your best friend, sometimes your best friend starts looking off. Wow. So sometimes you have to, or when you're giving a speech, just watch your audience And if they're getting distracted, try to connect with them again. And just like Brian was saying, you want to, just like a stand-up comedian, he watches the room, and if the room is...
I'm gonna have to kill you on time.
All right.
Okay. So, I have a question for you. You guys talked about the League of Women Voters and how to increase diversity with it, which was the assignment. Now, on March 03 this year, the House of Representatives passed the For the People Act, H.R. 1. Chris Carson, president of the National Board of the League of Women Voters, said, "This landmark legislation is the biggest improvement to our democracy since the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Virginia Case, CEO of the League of Women Voters, said, "The League works tirelessly to make sure that every eligible voter has their voice heard in every election. A healthy democracy is one in which everyone has their voice heard." How do you think we, the League of Women Voters, can use the ideas you talked about to successfully increase the participation of the diverse population of potential voters that exist in America today? For example, in the most recent election, only 40% of Americans voted.
So I think it's really important to have a personal connection with them. Kind of like I was saying, like you can't have a speech given to all different types of audiences where it's all exactly the same, rehearsed, because the audience will pick up on that. So if you can form like a personal connection between them and who you're talking to, I believe that you're going to have a better turnout with women voters because they'll feel enticed to support your cause, which in turn supports the United States of America.
Great. Okay, we're done.